What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to bring you a 1,000-mile review of our 2020 Subaru WRX STI. So again, I just reached a 1,000-mile mark, so I wanted to get a quick review up. That way you have an idea if you're looking at this car and it may be something that you're looking at purchasing, or you're looking at a regular WRX. It may give you some insight into that. So again, I daily drive this car back and forth to work, and just generally as my daily driver. We do have a 7-month-old, so there is a car seat in the back, so it is something you can use if you have a family. We have a Subaru STI also, so we didn't need another big vehicle. So that being said, these reviews usually go, and I usually do the exterior, interior, and then the whole drivability of the car. So I did briefly own a WRX, so I'll kind of go through a little bit of some of the differences there and why this may be a better purchase for you or not a better purchase. So that being said, let's jump in and go through the exterior of the car. Looking at the exterior of the car, actually this is the white color, pearl white I believe. This is not originally the first color I wanted, but they only limited produce these things, and with COVID it has been hard to get them. It does not have its stock tires and rims on there, so I'll talk about that as we go. But looking at the front, you have your basic, it has not changed since 2015. It does have a little bit wider stance, a little bit more aggressive front, but you have your functional hood scoop there, which I like. It makes the car look aggressive without being too over the top like the Honda Civic Type R, which I really like that, but that kind of looks a little bit more childish, I think. Not necessarily childish, but it's a little more aggressive than this. So this looks overall like a general daily driver. It looks like a 4-door sedan until you get to the big wing in the back. But the front, you do have steering responsive LED headlights, standard, which I really like. Once you get used to these, it's hard to go back to standard, regular halogen headlights. You do have functional vents here, so there is vents in here that actually will go into the back of your brakes and help cool those, so you do have that. And overall, you have your STI logo obviously there, but overall I really like the front look of this, mainly because it blends in and it doesn't look too out there compared to other vehicles. You do have your turn signals in your mirror, which I think is a nice touch. Generally that's on the more like your limited touring trims of your other vehicles. Looking at the actual brakes, 6-piston brakes, which is a little bit overkill I think for this car. I think honestly you could probably get you could have went with the standard 4-piston they had before, but you got Brembo 6-piston brakes. The only negative I've found about these brakes is that they're very dusty. Again, I just had these rims put on because these are the winter tires and rims, but they are very dusty and they're really overkill. But this car will stop on a dime. You won't have any issues there. Then you have 4-piston brakes here in the rear, which again is nice. A few things to talk about the rims and tires. So they come with performance summer tires to begin with, and the original rims I actually do not care for all that much. I much prefer the ones on the 2019 STI, but you're going to need winter tires and rims, or at least winter tires if you I live in Ohio, so it gets cold and snows here, so keep that in mind. You're going to spend at least probably $1,000 to $1,500 on winter tires and rims, but it's actually a little bit softer riding with these tires on there, but we'll talk about that later. So looking at the side, again, it looks aggressive without being too aggressive, so I really like that. No tinted windows at all. That's kind of disappointing to me because we have a baby, so if you look back here, you can see that at some point we're gonna have to get these tinted because the sun absolutely destroys him at certain times of the day. So that's one negative about the exterior, but overall I really like the look of it. You do have your quad tip exhaust back here. It does have the Subaru rumble with the unequal length headers. I'm not going to do the sound of that. If you want to see that, just go look at some other videos, but it's a very nice sounding natural car. I'm not putting a different exhaust on this. I think the stock one sounds pretty good, has enough bite to it for me. You got your STI logo back there, the big wing, which is standard for your STI. And then you got your Subaru. I kind of wish this was black. I think they have a different, like a white edition that is blacked out. I do wish these taillights were a little bit more blacked out, like the Outback XT. I think it would make it look a little bit sharper, but overall, I'm really happy with the way the exterior of it looks. Again, the white is going to be a little bit dirty, but overall, It's a nice looking vehicle. Another shot of the front. You do have drilled rotors, which I don't think is anything important or anything to take into account, but you do have that. Again, very, very good brakes. If you get a regular WRX, I'd highly recommend getting the performance package with the 4-piston Brembo brakes, because it just makes a huge improvement in overall just braking of the car. The brakes do require, when it's cold out, they do require a little bit of heating up before they get some bite, but man, when they bite, they really, really bite. So that's it. No sunroof. You have to get the limited trim to get that. So look at the interior of the car. Very wide doors, so they do open wide, which is your standard Subaru. You know, all their Subaru cars do that. This is where there's a lot of positive and negatives with the interior. So this plastic feels very cheap. Like, it feels much cheaper than it should be. Doesn't feel like premium quality plastic. For the radio, the speakers are probably below average, C-. They're not great. They don't bother me. You can get this with a Harman Kardon in them, but you're going to pay a little bit more for that. Plenty of storage down here, so I haven't had any problems with that. You do have some Alcantara, I believe, suede type material here. The problem is that this only has 1,000 miles on it, and you can see there's a ton of wear on that already where my elbow or my arm rests, so I don't anticipate this holding up all that well. And not a huge fan of the gloss black, but again, that's fairly minimal in this car. So looking at the actual steering wheel, it's a very nice steering wheel. That is one positive about the WRX and the STI altogether, is it's just a very nice flat bottom steering wheel. Leather wrapped. It does have hydraulic steering, so it is very, very heavy. So when you're going to steer the car, it has a very heavy feel to it. The seats, these are not the Recaro seats, but they're kind of mild performance seats. They're very stiff, very hard. They're not as plush as we have a Subaru Ascent, if you look there, and those seats are very comfortable. These seats are comfortable, but I don't know if I would want to take a 12-hour trip on this. But again, we have a different vehicle for that. Manual seats, which don't bother me. I have no issues getting them in the right actual proper seating position. And now looking at the actual center gauge cluster here, the first thing that I will mention is I really like it. It's a very simple design. You have your LCD screen here in the front, which isn't very large, and you got your standard speedometer and tachometer and RPM right there. This does not adjust much, so you can just do a few different settings. The reason why this light is flashing is I don't have TPS sensors in my winter tires. It does go away after a while, but you won't generally see that. So it's a very minimal design, which I really like. Again, the steering wheel is nice. You can't see it. The buttons they're okay. They're not modern Subaru like anything on the global platform, but I haven't had any issues. They do have a kind of a cheap click to them when you push on them. As far as the top center screen, this is where I think things shine. It's very responsive. Has your boost gauge here. You have a clock. You have your miles per gallon here. So currently I'm getting 19.2 out of the tank, which is probably about what you're going to get standard. I don't drive this thing. I drive it in sport all the time. I don't really beat on it all that much because it's brand new. So, you know, keep that. And then you have that. And then 19.6. That's what I've been getting off the odometer. So 19.6 for the first 1,000 miles, which isn't bad. I've heard a lot of people saying they're getting like 15, 12, 16, but generally you could probably get between 19 and 22 out of it if you really tried. So that screen's really nice. The 7-inch infotainment system is just okay. It's not anything special. You do have physical knobs for everything, which I really like. That's one reason why I hated our new Outback, because there was no physical knobs for your climate system. So you have physical knobs for that. Everything's easy. It feels nice. They're nice rubber. They feel, you know, like premium quality. The only negative is that if you actually turn your heat or you turn your top display here off, it actually will, you won't be able to see your climate stuff. So that's one negative, but that's really it. Dual zone climate, we never use that, but you do have that. I wish it had the upgraded 8-inch that the Ascent, Crosstrek and Forester have, but it works. It's responsive. push to start stop, you know, keyless entry, you have all that, which is standard on the STI. You do not get that on the standard WRX. You have to kind of get the limited trim and above for that, so that's nice. I'm gonna turn that off, save some fuel mileage. I do not like the glass or the glossy black down here at the bottom. Let's get out of the car so we can show you. But you do have a decent amount of gloss black down here, which attracts dust, fingerprints, STI logo. Very nice shifter. It's very short. That's one thing I will mention, is that it's a very, the gear ratio is real close together, so you're going to be shifting a lot, and there's not, in driving around town, first gear is a little bit too short. I wish it was a little bit longer because it's almost a wasteful of a gear. A lot of times you can just start in second if you're at a roll. You have your electronic center control differential. This car has 3 differentials in it, but this actually controls the electronic one in the center. I think you have a limited slip in the front and a helix style in the rear, but I'm not positive. But it's all-wheel drive, 3 differentials. It's one of the best handling cars out there. So you have your intelligent, sport, sport sharp. I do it in sport all the time because it feels like the most linear, responsive. Sport sharp was just too aggressive for me to drive around town, so I usually just use the sport, and I've really liked that. I do not use the center differential, the plus and minus. May be useful in the winter, but I don't use that right now. You have physical buttons for your heated seats. The thing is that these buttons haven't changed much in the past 10 years. They're almost identical, but they're functional, easy to find. You know, got your standard handbrake here. It's not electric like a lot of the newer vehicles, and the cup holders are okay. You can fit a cup in here and it doesn't have any problem. The center armrest is tiny and a little bit useless. It feels very, very cheap. It does pop up like this, but again, it does not feel like the best quality material out there. Not much storage. That's another negative. You do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so you do have the option for that. But overall, that's where you can kind of tell where it shows its roots at. But the heated seats are nice. Overall, the interior, it's a very comfortable, well visible. All Subarus have good visibility out of them. If you see there, they're just easy to see out of, easy to drive, and it's a comfortable overall vehicle to be in. So looking at the back, there's tons of room. The doors open really wide, so you can kind of see that there. Again, not much different back here. Same as the front. Cheap, very cheap plastic. It does not feel soft at all. It feels like there was a bunch of old plastic they melted together to make this. But overall, and then you do have these anchors here for your door, which is a safety feature. And this car is very safe. It gets the gold. I don't think it gets the gold plus, but I know it gets the gold on the highway safety rating. But plenty of room in the back seats. No one ever rides back here besides their 7-month-old, but you do have cup holders, which is, you know, pretty nice. No back seat heated vents, but honestly, this is a smaller mid-sized car. You do not need back seats. The only negative I have found with the back seats, or my wife mentioned when she rode back here, she said she couldn't really hear the radio, so the speakers could probably use a bump or an upgrade. But that's it. Plenty of back room back there. The trunk is pretty adequate. It has a pretty large trunk. This was an option that came with it, was this mat back here. You only have a regular spare, you don't have a full size, so gas tank. Everyone's seen a gas tank before, but this is what I really like about this car, is that it's not too big. It's a smaller car, but it can fit a fairly large car seat. This is the Nuna Rava car seat, which is a little bit larger of a car seat out there, so it fits in there no problem. It's comfortable. Kind of had to jerry-rig that. I have a bunch of towels back there to keep that up, but anyone that tells you cannot have this as a dad or a family, you could easily fit 2 car seats in here, rear facing, and not have a problem. So we don't plan on having more than 2 kids, so I don't think we'll have any problem there. Passenger side, my wife rides in this on occasion, but we don't take this for long distances. But it's very comfortable. She says, she has plenty of leg room, plenty of room in there. She did say the seats were kind of hard, so keep that in mind. The seats may be a little bit too hard for long trips. But just test drive it. The WRX, like the Limited with the leather, does have a little bit more plush, a little bit more cushiony seats, a little more comfortable. But these are kind of the in between the Limited and the Recaro. You do have some nice leather and suede material. I like the red stitching, the red seat belts. That goes very good with the white color, I believe. So it's something that I personally like. But she said it's, you know, it's fairly comfortable. We've driven this for about an hour and a half on a trip before, and they know it was just fine. But that's really it for the interior so far. Mostly happy with it. As far as the drivetrain, let's pop over the motor here and show you that. This motor has not changed in, I think it actually originally came out in 1994. It's a fairly old motor. 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It has 310 horsepower and, I don't know, 306 pound-feet of torque, somewhere around there. It is port injected. That is why the gas mileage is so bad. It's not a direct injected engine. Or Toyota has a port and direct injection, which gets really good gas mileage. But that's why the gas mileage is so bad. It's an old motor. But it would also has tons of aftermarket support. I don't plan on doing any modding with this, but be easy to work on. You get your alternator right up there. You could easily change your belts without any issue. The only negative is that the oil filter is actually underneath the car, as the newer ones are mounted up here on top. But you know, it's a reliable engine as long as you take care of it, change the fuel or change the oil in it, and check the oil frequently. I just had the oil changed, even though it only has 1,000 miles on it, mainly because I wanted to get the new oil out of it. But it is what it is. You got your top-mounted intercooler. It is an engine that likes to go at higher RPMs, so the WRX felt really peppy at 1,500 to, let's say, 5,000 RPMs. This one likes the 3,000 to 6,000 RPMs. Like, you really have to get it above 3,000 RPMs before it comes alive. That's where its real meat of its power is at. But overall, drivability of this, it's very nice. The gears are a little short, so you will be shifting a lot. Doesn't get the best gas mileage out there, but I don't drive all that much. It does take premium fuel, so keep that in mind. So it's going to be more to maintenance, because I believe you should change the oil every 3,000 miles in these, just because the engine is known to burn a little bit of oil, which it even says in the manual it's naturally supposed to do. And you're going to have to put winter tires and rims, or at least winter tires on here, which is going to cost, I believe these were like $625 just for the tires. I think it was around $1,200 for both. I did a video on that, so keep that in mind if you're buying this. It is a little bit costlier of a vehicle because, again, it takes premium fuel, which is about 50 cents a gallon more, and you're going to have to put winter tires and rims on it. But it is a blast to drive every day. It doesn't draw that much attention. I actually was worried about that because I don't like a lot of attention. Usually you get a lot of waves or people more curious about the car versus people trying to race you. But overall, it's been a really nice car to drive every day. A little more expensive to maintain. So if I was driving 20, 30 miles a day to work, I would probably look at the WRX a little more, especially if I'm driving further distances on the interstate, because this is a little bit stiffer of a ride than the WRX, and it does not get as good a gas mileage. So if you're driving long distances, especially 30, 40 miles one way, or even 20 miles, take that into account. The WRX feels just as fast, but it does not have the big brakes. And this is a car that I have wanted since I was 12. So financially was in the spot to buy it. So we bought it, and so far it's been an absolute blast. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, comments, generally I will get over the price of this. I've had a lot of people ask about that, what I paid for it, the whole purchasing experience. So I will do a video on that down the line. But that's it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them below. Or if you want to see more videos like this, give it a thumbs up, and I will do the best I can. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Good holiday. It's almost Thanksgiving. And be safe out there. Be careful, especially with everything going on with COVID. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.